I've got one. In fact, I got one. I had it, I hadn't shot it yet, but I had it redone to put a silencer on it.
He had mentioned that he liked seeing the guys, you know, in the beginning and then seeing how far they've come.
I like it a lot. But no, I love this thing. When I went hunting with you guys, I had just gotten out of the hospital.
Yeah.
So I was pretty bad off. The jacket I still use the clothes. I don't fit very well anymore, but.
You got him. I don't know, I was looking back.
It was just really cool to have that connection again.
You know, that hunt you took me on was the very first hunt I've ever done.
Good.
That was the first animal I've killed.
Tyler Sloan is a hunter that we had about 10 years ago in our program. I had met him while he was still at Brooke Army Medical Center. He'd been shot, injured real bad, shot in the hip. He was rehabbing and recuperating from those injuries.
It was hot. Luckily, there was a pretty good breeze.
Tyler's the kind of guy that when you meet him, you just want to spend more time with him. He just has a radiant personality. The first time I met him, he's just the happy-go-luckiest guy I'd ever met, although he was suffering from a tragic injury. But to see him now, 10 years later, he's still got that spark in his eye that it caused me to just want to spend another weekend with him.
Show of support, that was my very first hunt for anything. You know, other than like BB gun birds and squirrels, but that was the very first real hunt that I had ever been on. Back in 2006, it was my first time hunting, and I'd just gotten out of the hospital. From what I remember, the governor was there. It was kind of my first experience with the outside world after being injured, and everybody was very thankful and shook your hand, and I got my deer the first night with the show of support rifle. I wanted the experience and see if hunting was something I'd enjoy. You know, I enjoy the outdoors and everything, and so I took him up on the offer and went down there, did the banquet and everything, and went on the hunt, and it was amazing, and I've been hunting ever since.
It was an honor to sit in the blind with Tyler, listen to his stories, how far he come, what he's doing with his life. But that afternoon was unbearably hot. Deer season this year was starting off unseasonably warm.
Once we got in the blind, you know, deer started coming in, you get more back into that mindset. You kind of, I guess, realize you're hunting and it's not just a hangout. And then you start getting a little excited and you're looking for that big buck to come in, and just seeing all the animals and stuff was really cool.
I've got trail cameras, pictures from all over my ranch. In this one particular place we're setting, I had 3 or 4 really nice bucks coming in. I was hoping to get a look at them, but this night was so hot and absolutely nothing was coming in. And it was kind of embarrassing because I kind of built this place up to Tyler that is my special little honey hole, and here we sit and there's not a thing to show him. Ever since I bought my place out at Menard, I've got to run into town to get supplies every now and then. Spent a lot of time at the hardware store, and I never dreamed that one day I'd walk in there and there standing across the hardware store I'd run into Tyler Sloan, Tyler being an alumni of our program from about 10 years earlier.
I started working at Higginbotham's 6-7 months after I moved here, and this guy came in and he kind of looked familiar, but I didn't really recognize him.
I saw Tyler literally across the store. He was helping a lady selling her some paint. Looked like he was mixing some paint for her.
And he asked me, you know, what happened to my leg, and I told him. He was like, oh, okay. Well, he ends up leaving, and so I go over and start helping another lady, and he comes back in while I'm doing that, and he's like, hey, you know, I want to give you this, and he handed me the coin. When
I first started Show of Support, I was handed a challenge coin from one of our participants, and I had the story explained to me of what they're for. They're made by the units that are deploying normally and given out to very special people that they would like to have. So I had my own collection of these coins from the people that we've hunted with. And so as an organization, we designed and came up with our own coin.
And I looked at it and I was like, Show of Support. And I was like, I did this back in 2006. He's like, who? What's your name? I was like, Tyler Sloan. Oh my God, I'm Terry. I was like, holy crap. He looked completely different, and it just kind of went from there. Small world, big state. And so after that, I worked at the hardware store for a little while and started working as EMS on an ambulance. and I just did my EMT course, so I'm an EMT now.
That one chance meeting that day has caused me to look back and to start doing follow-ups on some of the guys we've dealt with in the past.
Unscripted, unfiltered, unfaltering. Show of Support's Hunt for Heroes offers tributes and true stories of remarkable courage.
That these terrorists could come in your bedroom and kill you, your wife, and your kids. And that's what these men are fighting to protect us from, these murdering idiots. And they're taking them out so that we don't have to deal with them over here.
Show of Support started it all, just after the shock and awe bound a nation together. Now, years of footage portraying wounded veterans, deer stands, and standing ovations. Hunt for Heroes, that started as one man's way to say thanks, is now a series that many say is way overdue.
Thank you for being a country worth fighting for. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
It's going to take a while to get around to all of them, but there's no quitting. It'll never stop as long as I'm breathing. We're not politically correct, we just have common sense.
It was those words that rallied a movement, something called Show of Support Hunt for Heroes. One man's dream 14 years ago of saying thanks to a generation of warriors has been copied and carried across the nation. In West Texas, Show of Support is a massive, nonprofit effort to salute the men and women of the United States military with hunting trips, the annual Show of Support banquet, and the tremendously successful Combat Wives program. At last count, more than 500 heroes from across the country have been honored by the work at Show of Support. With your tax-deductible donations, Show of Support can continue its mission forward.
It's heart-wrenching to hear what they've been through, and it makes what I'm doing seem so petty to try to say thanks, but these guys have gone through such devastating injuries.
Visit our website at showofsupport.org to find out how you can become a part of this incredible movement. Your donation can truly make a difference.
It's a well-known fact the people of West Texas know the importance of hard work, determination, and drive. For years, TCO Field Services has been a part of the expanding petroleum industry. Another well-known fact is the admiration West Texans have for America's troops. Plain and simple, military heroes don't have a better friend than the hard-working folks in West Texas. At TCO, we never lose sight of the job done by our military, keeping us safe here in West Texas.
Tyler Sloan is an alumni of our program from 10 years previous, and I've run into him in a hardware store in a little town, and we haven't seen a thing this first afternoon. It was hard to call it a night and get out of that blind.
I was just mostly honestly socializing and catching up with Terry. I wasn't thinking about the hunt as much as I probably should have.
Tyler took a round and it went through him, but like a lot of our guys, they're not comfortable talking about their injuries.
So I rolled over and crawled about 20 feet to a wall, turned around and leaned up against it and yelled for a medic. I kind of tried to pull a little bit of security for myself, but my femoral artery was severed, so I was bleeding out. I remember laying there and I asked for morphine, and he said he couldn't give me any. He didn't know where all the bleeding was coming from, because at the time it was just entrance and exit. There was nothing else. And the entrance was, on my stomach, exit was my right butt cheek. And so he didn't have any idea that the femoral was severed. There was just nothing. And so I remember feeling myself bleeding out and kind of just, for lack of a better term, accepting it. And I woke up 7 days later in Walter Reed, and I ended up, some of the stomach, small intestine, my bowels, colon, iliac wing blew up, femoral artery, femoral nerve, sciatic nerve cluster. I had nerve damage in this whole arm. I couldn't move my wrist at all. I was in traction. I had fasciotomies, And so I spent 6 months as inpatient at Walter Reed. I had about 38 surgeries altogether.
When these guys open up and start talking about their injuries, it's heart-wrenching to hear what they've been through, and it makes what I'm doing seem so petty to try to say thanks, but these guys have gone through such devastating injuries.
This used to be that racquetball court, so right now I've got cleaning supplies in one, construction supplies in the other.
Right.
So,
You've been painting all this?
yep, I painted everything.
You've been busy.
We're gonna put handguns in this case, and then it'll go, I think, knives, scopes, binoculars, and I haven't decided. 3 weeks ago, we decided to open up a gun store, so I got that going. We were going over names. I didn't want something like Tyler's or anything like that. And we were out at my mom's house shooting one day, and we were coming back because we were done. And I was carrying all the spent brass and a bunch of just range gear. And I started walking, and as I was walking, I started dropping brass. And I said, "Ashley, hurry up, I'm dropping brass." And we both just looked at each other and knew.
I'll be
But
dang.
that's what we wanted to call it.
That's
so.
cool. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's about 1,000 square feet, and I went in, remodeled. I'm trying to change everything from the last guy, and just trying to get that going and be a bigger part of the community I'm living in, because they've welcomed us so much.
Tyler moved to Menard, Texas, not knowing anybody. It's almost as though he just threw a dart at a map and said, "This is where we're going to live."
I mean, I had my retirement, so I wasn't pinned down to one location for work. And my parents were camping in San Angelo, and we were driving back from there, and we decided to drive through Eden and Menard going down South 83. And we liked it a lot, and I think a month later we bought land, and then a month after that we bought a house in town, and that was 3 years ago. Everyone, when you move to a small town from a big town, I moved from San Antonio to here. My wife got a job at the title company when we were signing our papers. And the lady there, her husband is the manager of Higginbotham's, and he gave me a job. And they kind of adopted us, for a lack of a better word. And every time they'd have something going on, they'd call us and we'd come out. Everybody's been real helpful. I've been asked to talk to the schools and all the kids about the injury and everything. And a couple of kids have done their Veteran Day reports on me. And it's just, I have nothing bad to say about Menard, because they have welcomed us with open arms. It's called Sonoran Desert Institute, and they have an associate's degree in Associates of Science in Firearms Maintenance. And so you're basically an associate's degree of gunsmithing.
To see somebody who's come so far into rehab, I'd seen him when he was first injured, but to see him moving on with his life, to see him 10 years down the road and his life being in such a positive position just made me proud. This deal tonight's opening weekend of deer season here in Menard, and this is a hunter blowout they have to kind of give everybody a big kickoff.
Also, we have a card draw, Tyler Sloan.
Well, Tyler's right in the middle of it. He's got his new business started.
We want to welcome him, Tyler Sloan, dropping brass.
My wife's on the chamber, so she's actually helping, and I'm going to be handing out raffle tickets. And then I'm using it as my first big public display of the brand for my gun store.
This particular event is going on in little towns all across Texas. It's just a magic time of the year.
All right, we're ready to give away a gun, so if you have your card, this is on the card draw.
I was so honored and proud to see them fitting into a community. This community had embraced them. They're moving on with their life. Things are going to be good for them.
Hey, Gary, how you doing? Good to see you.
Because this is a community that I've actually admired for many years. Only thing is, we've still got a deer to kill.
It's a well-known fact the people of West Texas know the importance of hard work, determination, and drive. For years, TCO Field Services has been a part of the expanding petroleum industry. Another well-known fact is the admiration West Texans have for America's troops. Plain and simple, military heroes don't have a better friend than the hard-working folks in West Texas. At TCO, we never lose sight of the job done by our military, keeping us safe here in West Texas.
We're not politically correct, we just have common sense.
It was those words that rallied a movement, something called Show of Support Hunt for Heroes. One man's dream 14 years ago of saying thanks to a generation of warriors has been copied and carried across the nation. In West Texas, Show of Support is a massive, nonprofit effort to salute the men and women of the United States military with hunting trips, the annual Show of Support banquet, and the tremendously successful Combat Wives program. At last count, more than 500 heroes from across the country have been honored by the work at Show of Support. With your tax-deductible donations, Show of Support can continue its mission forward.
It's heart-wrenching to hear what they've been through, and it makes what I'm doing seem so petty to try to say thanks, but these guys have gone through such devastating injuries.
Visit our website at showofsupport.org to find out how you can become a part of this incredible movement. Your donation can truly make a difference.
That's the main rifle I use. Everything I've killed with that rifle. It's taken water buffalo, whitetail, everything. I love that rifle. I mean, I've never had to re-zero the scope in 11 years. I'm rough on it. It's a hunting rifle. I mean, it's got scratches. Every mark on there is a story and something that I'm proud of. I use that rifle, and it's just been an amazing thing. Driving out, it was a lot cooler. There was a better breeze. You're so used to hunting whitetail in the winter when it's actually cold that when the temperature drops, you start feeling like, okay, now it's whitetail season.
We've been doing Show of Support now for 14 years, and normally I don't look back. I try to continue to look forward. After seeing Tyler, it has caused me to stop and want to look back on these guys and how far they've come and what they've done with their lives. Because I never in my wildest dreams could have ever thought that Show of Support would last 14 years.
I like watching the animals interact, and you see something different every time you go hunting. And so that's always a pleasure to me.
The most amazing part of Tyler's story is that he made the decision to have them take his leg.
My hip was fractured and just like exploded, it was powder. And so from the knee down, it was dead. I had no feeling, no movement. I felt broken. I mean, I didn't feel like I was able to do anything because my walk was horrible. I kind of just slouched and just dragged it along behind me. And I got to thinking that, if I keep with the lifestyle I'm having, I'm not going to be able to do these things I'm going to want to do. I'm going to look back and regret it. And so I went in on a Tuesday, and next Thursday I had my leg cut off. And when I woke up and you see the sheets drop off shorter than where it used to, it hits you hard even when you plan it. But I knew that it was going to be better in the long run. I mean, my quality of life was going to improve so much. And so I had it cut off, and I did 2 weeks on my normal narcotic regimen. And then for 30 days was the fastest my doctor would allow me to come off all my meds. And so every single week I dropped 50 milligrams on everything. And it was basically a month of withdrawals. And I imagine what a heroin addict or something would go through. I mean, curled up in a ball, sweating. And every time I get used to that new dosage, we drop another 50. And so I went from 200 milligrams of morphine a day to 0 in 30 days. I mean, the day after I got my leg, I was able to go out and hunt. And so having it be that fast of a turnaround was what makes me so excited and happy about the decision. That, and it's a great party trick, and I get good parking. We were sitting there watching, and a lot of does were coming out, a lot of younger bucks and small bucks were coming out. Never lost faith, but you know, you get kind of to that point where you're like, well, I guess nothing's coming out.
Starting to feel really bad. We've been out hunting twice now, and we haven't seen a decent deer yet. It's like inviting somebody over for dinner and you burn the roast. We'd barely gotten out of the blind, and a big buck catches us off guard.
You're gonna have to set up on my shoulder. He's right through there.
We're not politically correct, we just have common sense.
It was those words that rallied a movement, something called Show of Support Hunt for Heroes. One man's dream 14 years ago of saying thanks to a generation of warriors has been copied and carried across the nation. In West Texas, Show of Support is a massive, nonprofit effort to salute the men and women of the United States military with hunting trips, the annual Show of Support banquet, and the tremendously successful Combat Wives program. At last count, more than 500 heroes from across the country have been honored by the work at Show of Support. With your tax-deductible donations, Show of Support can continue its mission forward.
It's heart-wrenching to hear what they've been through, and it makes what I'm doing seem so petty to try to say thanks, but these guys have gone through such devastating injuries.
Visit our website at showofsupport.org to find out how you can become a part of this incredible movement. Your donation can truly make a difference.
It's a well-known fact the people of West Texas know the importance of hard work, determination, and drive. For years, TCO Field Services has been a part of the expanding petroleum industry. Another well-known fact is the admiration West Texans have for America's troops. Plain and simple, military heroes don't have a better friend than the hard-working folks in West Texas. At TCO, we never lose sight of the job done by our military, keeping us safe here in West Texas.
And the time went fast this morning because you weren't thinking about the heat and the sun in your eyes. Before we knew it, it was 9 o'clock, and you know, we'd been sitting there a while, and we decided to take a little break. So as we're walking back from the blind, you know, the clouds kind of cleared up, it got brighter out, a little bit better visibility, and we saw a buck on the way back as we were walking back to the ranger. He was facing away from us. All you could see was his back end. And then he was kind of teed off with the young buck in front of him. And the young buck, we had the profile to him, and he was looking back at us, but we couldn't make out what the bigger one was. I don't have a shot. You know, you're trying to get everything planned out in your head, and finally, as we're standing there, the young buck was either chasing a doe, spotted us or something, and he started slowly taking off. He did like maybe a 30-foot, maybe 45 feet little quick jog off to the left. And as we're standing there, the large buck, the older one, starts walking, and he cuts off and goes to the left behind some trees.
We're gonna have to get back around. Let's see if we can get back over this way.
And so we lost visibility. I had no shot on that point. We ended up going around another little growth of mesquite and everything, and kind of picked back up on him.
All I'm seeing is his antlers. Right there's his antlers.
All you could see, I could see the top of his antlers, and everything else was just thick brush. And so you're standing there and you're like, I know he's there. If that tree wasn't there, I'd have a shot. Like, oh, come on, just a little to the left.
Let's go around him and try to quarter him off. We'll get between him and that little guy.
Okay, try to split him up.
Yeah, see if he'll stop and look at us. Let's go this way.
Every time I made a move, I was dead sure convinced that that deer was just gonna bolt off and I'd lose him, because he was getting into some thicker brush. And having the one leg, you know, trying to walk on the uneven ground, I'm not exactly as stable as I used to be, nor am I as quiet as I used to be. And so you're constantly thinking, all right, I need to keep an eye on the deer, but I also need to see where I'm going so I don't trip up and look like an idiot.
Right through there.
There was nothing around. I mean, I didn't have a shooting stick, there wasn't a tree to lean on. And so, unfortunately for Terry, he leant up his shoulder with that 300 Winchester short mag. So I was able to use his shoulder as a good rest. He plugged his ear and made a pretty good stable shooting position.
You got him. You got him. There he goes. You got him. That shot. No, it's a good one. You got him. He's hit. There, he's in that brush right there. And I think I heard him go down. It's a good shot. You got him. Thank you. Way to go. Oh, man, that was awesome.
After I pulled the trigger, I was 98% sure I had pulled and dropped it to the right and gut shot him.
I know I pulled it just a little. Well, I was kind of wiggling because I was getting nervous.
Well, I got a little fever going on, so.
Well, good. If you don't get fever, then
there's no reason to do it.
No reason to hunt.
We went up, finally, and spotted the blood, a lot of blood on the ground. We were able to walk the whole trail without any problems, and come to find out the shot wasn't really that bad.
Right there.
I knew I had hit it, I just didn't know how good of a shot it was. I was worried that, you know, it's gonna be a 500, 600 yard walk trying to find this deer.
Man. That's not as far, unless that was exit.
That's a great shot right there.
When I got up there and
It's a great shot.
was actually able to put hands on him, he was a good sized deer. I mean, he was heavy.
Let me have this. He's your deer, so you get to touch him first.
The antlers had mass to him. I mean, when you grabbed him, it was a good sized deer, and you get that excitement, a little buck fever after the fact, and you're like, oh wow, this is gonna look so great on my wall.
Got a split eye guard. Tried to split here, but something bent.
This thing is awesome.
It's a great deer. How's that compare to the first one you got with us?
I think it was more fun of a hunt this time.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
You know, you think about how privileged this all came from. A bad situation. I mean, I got injured, and honestly, is the only reason I met Terry is because I got injured. But it doesn't take any value away from it, but it makes you know how privileged you are that there are people out there like Terry that want and are willing to take the time to do stuff like this for us.
Pretty cape.
I'm thinking back 10 years, I'm seeing how far this man's come. And all this came about by a chance meeting in a hardware store in Menard, Texas.
I had no idea I'd move into Menard, Texas, that I would be running into Terry Johnson again.
How old do you think he was?
I think he's 5.5.
I'm starting to stop in my tracks and look back and see how much ground they've covered and what they've done with their lives, the productive things they've done, the businesses they've created, the wives, the families, the children. It's just awesome to see how they've moved on. You ready? Got it? And I pause and reflect and think we've got nearly 500 Show of Support alumni out there. And all of it started from just taking 2 men hunting.